Lily Adams was just a hotel maid, tired, unseen, and quietly dreaming of a life beyond dirty sheets and silence. One night, she fell asleep in the wrong room and woke up in a story that would change her life forever. James Walker had everything: money, power, control, but his world was cold until he walked into his suite and found a stranger asleep in his bed. In that moment, the billionaire met the one thing he never expected: love. Lily Adams was only 26, but her soul had aged beyond its years. Her back ached, her feet felt like broken glass, and her eyes stung with exhaustion as she pushed her cart down the hallway of the Rosewood Hotel, Aspen's most luxurious mountain escape. The world outside was snow-covered and silent, wrapped in a soft winter hush. Inside the hotel, lights glittered like stars, and everything smelled of fresh linen and lavender. But Lily wasn't thinking about beauty. She was thinking about her aching bones, about rent due in 3 days, and about her mother's unpaid medical bills waiting on the kitchen counter back home. She wiped sweat from her brow with a sleeve already damp from scrubbing bathtubs. Room after room, she moved like a ghost, quiet, unseen, and forgotten. 15 rooms done. 15 little battles won. She checked the time. Midnight. Just one more. Then she heard it. "Lily, Suite 701 still needs cleaning." Her supervisor's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. Suite 701, the penthouse. Her heart dropped. She wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come anymore. That room was enormous: 2 bedrooms, a private spa tub, and more windows than most houses. The guest hadn't arrived yet, they said. A late check-in. James Walker. Even the name sounded like gold. She had heard the whispers from the front desk girls. Billionaire. Quiet, never seen with women, and never smiles. He didn't want attention. He came for the snow, not the spotlight. Lily had never met him, and she hoped she never would. She didn't have energy for judgmental eyes or rich man complaints tonight. Dragging her cart like it weighed 1,000 pounds, she stepped into the elevator. Her reflection in the metal doors showed a woman barely holding it together. Hair falling loose, uniform wrinkled, mascara smudged from sweat. She laughed softly, bitterly. "I look like the end of a storm," she whispered. The elevator dinged. She was there. Suite 701 was bathed in soft golden lighting. The room was breathtaking: velvet curtains, marble floors, a bed the size of a small country. She went to work, cleaning like muscle memory, dusting, polishing, folding towels into perfect swans. But each motion dragged her lower. Her fingers trembled as she cleaned the glass. Her knees ached as she scrubbed the tub. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since 9 a.m. By the time she finished, she stood at the edge of the bed, staring at the downy white comforter like it was heaven. "Just 5 minutes," she told herself, "just to close my eyes." Her hands moved on their own, unzipping her uniform, letting it drop to the floor. The fabric was stiff, soaked with the day's sweat. She pulled back the blankets and slid in. The warmth of the bed wrapped around her like a mother's arms. She didn't even mean to fall asleep, but her body was done fighting. Within seconds, she was gone. Breathing steady, heart slowing, skin bare against the sheets. No alarm, no fear, no thoughts. Just the deep sleep of someone who had nothing left to give. In the hallway, the elevator dinged again. James Walker stepped out, tall, sharp, dressed in black. He walked silently, carrying only a leather bag and the weight of 1,000 thoughts. He had no idea what or who was waiting for him behind the door of Suite 701. And Lily? She had no idea her life was about to change. Forever. The elevator doors whispered open on the top floor. Out stepped James Walker, tall and striking in his long dark coat, his sharp features carved with quiet strength and solitude. His black gloves gripped a single leather duffel. He never traveled with more. Simplicity was his escape. No security, no assistance, no noise. He had made billions in real estate and tech. But tonight, he wasn't here as a businessman. He was here as a man trying to breathe. Aspen's snow-covered silence was the only thing that made sense anymore. As he walked towards Suite 701, his footsteps echoed softly down the empty hallway. His mind wasn't on the suite. It was on the silence he longed for, away from boardrooms and fake smiles, away from deals and demands, away from people who only saw his money, not his heart. He unlocked the door with a quiet beep. The suite was dim, calm, peaceful, but something was wrong. The air felt too warm. The lights were on a low golden glow. But he hadn't requested that. He stepped inside, placed his bag near the door, and stopped cold. His breath caught in his throat. There was someone in his bed. At first he thought it was a joke, a prank, some mistake. But no, she was real. A woman, naked, sleeping. Her long hair spilled over the pillow like silk. Her back rose and fell with each soft breath. Her bare shoulder peeked from beneath the white sheets like a secret the world had never seen. James's pulse quickened. He didn't panic. He didn't shout. But he didn't move either. He stared for a long moment, trying to understand. Who was she? Why was she here? She looked so young, so exhausted. Her lips were slightly parted, her brow furrowed gently, like she'd fallen asleep mid-worry. And somehow, despite the situation, there was nothing shameful about the moment. It was human, raw, unexpected, gentle. James quietly walked toward the bed, every step calculated and respectful. He knelt beside the edge, picked up the fallen comforter from the floor, and carefully draped it over her body. She stirred slightly, murmuring something in her sleep. His heart did something strange, something it hadn't done in years. It softened. There was no anger, only curiosity, and something else. A distant, long-forgotten feeling. He didn't want to wake her. Not like this. So he turned, walked across the room, and sat on the leather couch near the window. He sat there in silence. For hours. Snow began falling outside, brushing against the glass like tiny whispers. The fire crackled gently. The soft light glowed against the wooden walls. And James waited. Not out of politeness, but because something told him this night was different. At 4:03 a.m., Lily stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, confused, then wide with horror. She sat up fast, too fast, grabbing the blanket tight to her chest. Her breathing turned sharp and fast. She saw him and froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came at first. Then, trembling, she choked out, I didn't mean to. Please, I thought the room was empty. I was just tired, I swear." Tears pooled in her eyes, panic choking her words. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean anything. I was just resting. I didn't even know you were coming. I swear, I'm not crazy. Please don't call security, please." James stood slowly, raising his hands gently. "Hey," he said in a calm, steady voice. "It's okay. You're safe." Lily backed into the headboard, her knuckles white around the blanket. "I can explain. You don't need to explain," he interrupted softly. "You were just tired, weren't you?" She blinked. The words hung in the air like a warm towel on cold skin. She nodded, barely able to breathe. James didn't come closer. He didn't judge. He simply sat back down. "I could see it on your face. You looked worn out, like you hadn't slept in years." Lily sniffled, wiping at her cheek with one shaking hand. "I cleaned 15 rooms," she whispered. "Then they sent me here. I thought it was empty. I swear I just wanted to close my eyes for 5 minutes." "You don't have to convince me," he said, with something like a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You've got nothing to be afraid of." The way he said it, genuine, calm, disarmed her completely. She looked at him for the first time. Really looked. Tall, clean cut, a quiet strength in his face, but not cruel. He looked tired too. Not in the same way, but from a different kind of war. He leaned forward slightly. "I'm James." She swallowed hard. "Lily." They stared at each other. Two strangers in the most bizarre moment of their lives. Yet something about it felt safe, familiar, like fate had dropped the puzzle pieces on the floor just to see if they would fit. And in that small, quiet room, with snow drifting outside and firelight dancing on the walls, something began, not with a kiss, not with a touch, but with understanding and peace. The air in the room was still quiet after that strange and unexpected night. Lily had dressed quickly, cheeks burning with shame, eyes puffy from tears. But James hadn't looked at her with judgment, only calmness. She had stood near the door, hands trembling, ready to be fired, humiliated or worse. But James just pointed toward the chair near the fireplace and said, "Would you like some coffee?" His voice was calm, kind, like velvet on bruised skin. Lily hesitated. She had never been offered kindness from someone so powerful. Not like this. Not when she expected punishment. I I should go, she mumbled. You can, he said, pouring 2 cups. Or, you can stay 5 minutes and breathe. Her body chose before her mind did. She sank into the chair, too tired to run anymore. He handed her the mug, strong, hot, earthy. It felt heavy in her hands. Real. James sat across from her, not saying anything, just waiting. And slowly, like ice melting under the spring sun, she opened up. Not because she had to, but because something in his stillness felt safe. I work 2 jobs, she whispered. Day shifts at the diner. Nights here. My mom's sick, and I paint when I can. But it's hard to afford canvas when you're counting pennies for bread. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer empty sympathy. He listened, really listened. I'm not asking for help, she added quickly. I don't want anyone to save me. I want to matter, even just to myself. James leaned back, and for the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him. Not desire, not guilt, something deeper. Recognition. He knew the look in her eyes, the fight to stay afloat. He had seen it in the mirror when he was younger, before the billions, before the headlines, before the walls went up. Lily wasn't weak. She was strong in the quietest, fiercest way, and something about that strength shook him. When the sun peeked through the curtains, Lily stood, ready to vanish back into her world. I'll go now, she said softly. Thank you for not yelling. James only nodded. You don't owe me an apology. She smiled faintly, then left. And James sat alone for a long time after. The next morning, Lily found something tucked behind the staff door. An envelope. Inside it was a note, folded carefully. You have nothing to be ashamed of. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'll be here. Jay. Her breath caught. Her hands clutched the paper like it was the last warm thing on earth. He hadn't just forgiven her, he had seen her. And that was everything. Over the next few days, something unspoken began between them. Not loud or dramatic, quiet, steady, like snow falling on glass. He stayed in the suite longer than planned. Days passed. He didn't ask her to meet him, but he always seemed to be where she was. They'd pass each other in the hallway. He'd nod, and she'd smile. Then came the second time they spoke, by the vending machines just after midnight. Lily had gone to grab a water. James was already there. No coffee tonight, he teased. She laughed nervously, trying to cut back. He leaned against the wall. I admire that. They spoke for 10 minutes about nothing. Weather, old movies, the best type of cereal. But in those 10 minutes, something clicked. Their words had rhythm, like music waiting to be written. Soon it became a habit. Midnight. Coffee in the staff lounge. No one else around. She'd sneak in. He'd already be there. They never touched, never crossed a line, just talked. Lily told him about her art, the dreams she kept buried under tired hands and shift schedules. James told her about the loneliness of power, the emptiness of winning every game only to find out you'd played it alone. And through the cracks of their wounds, light began to shine. One night, he brought her a sketchbook. I thought maybe you could use it, he said. No strings. Lily stared at it for a long moment, then whispered, Thank you. He had money. She didn't. But somehow neither of them had ever been truly seen, until now. They kept it a secret, not because it was wrong, but because it was theirs. A sacred, quiet space in a loud, judgmental world. They didn't need anyone else to understand. One night she sketched his profile without meaning to, the way he stared into the fire, lost in thought. Another night he asked her, Do you ever feel like the world forgot you before you even got the chance to show up? She nodded, tears in her eyes. Every day. By the end of the week, Lily realized something terrifying. She looked forward to seeing him, not just as the man who didn't report her, but as the man who saw her heart and didn't flinch. And James? He stopped checking his phone, stopped worrying about deals waiting in the city, because for the first time in his life, he didn't feel alone. He felt understood. And love? Love didn't scream its arrival. It whispered between vending machines and midnight coffee. It was a Thursday night. The air in Aspen had turned even colder, like winter had taken a deeper breath. Inside the hotel, lights glowed warmly, and the fire in James's suite crackled gently. Lily sat on the floor beside the fireplace, legs tucked under her, her sketchbook in her lap. She was drawing without thinking, letting her pencil dance to the quiet rhythm of her heart. James sat on the couch nearby, reading, though he wasn't truly focused. He kept stealing glances at her, how her brows furrowed when she sketched, how her lips parted slightly when she was lost in thought, her sketchbook in her lap. She was drawing without thinking, letting her pencil dance to the quiet rhythm of her heart. James sat on the couch nearby, reading, though he wasn't truly focused. He kept stealing glances at her, how her brows furrowed when she sketched, how her lips parted slightly when she was lost in thought. There was something in the air between them that night, something heavier. Lily could feel it in her bones. She closed her sketchbook and hugged her knees to her chest. "There's something I need to tell you," she said quietly. James looked up, sensing the shift. She didn't meet his eyes. "I don't know how you'll take it," she continued, "but if this, whatever this is between us, if it's going to be honest, then I need to be too." James nodded slowly. "I'm listening." Lily took a deep breath. Her voice shook as she spoke. "I wasn't always the person I am now," she said. "I grew up in a house filled with hate. My father, he was proud of being a racist. He made sure I knew it. He used ugly words like they were nothing, taught me to fear anyone who didn't look like us." James remained silent, but his gaze didn't turn away. "I was young. I believed him at first. I didn't know any better," she said, her voice breaking. "But then I grew up. I got out. I started working, meeting people, real people." She blinked back tears. "And I realized everything he taught me was wrong, poisonous. I hated that I ever believed it. I hated that it came from my blood." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm ashamed of who I was. I've spent years trying to unlearn it all. And I know I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I don't carry that darkness forward, because I don't want to be him. I want to be better than where I came from." The silence after her words was heavy, raw. Lily's eyes flicked up, terrified of what she'd see in his face. But James didn't look angry. He looked sad, deeply moved. He sat back, exhaled slowly, and said softly, "Thank you for trusting me with that." "I understand if you don't want to talk to me anymore," she whispered, but James shook his head. "Number, I do want to talk, because I've got a story too." He set his book down and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I grew up in a wealthy home, big house, country clubs, perfect-looking family, but behind the smiles was coldness, expectations, appearances." He paused, staring into the fire. "My younger brother, Adam, he fell in love with a woman named Naomi. Smart, funny, black. My parents couldn't handle it. They said it wasn't right, that she didn't belong." His jaw tightened. "They disowned him when he proposed to her." Lily's mouth dropped open slightly. Her heart clenched. "I begged them to see past it, to love who he loved," James continued, "but they refused. So I walked away. From them, from all of it." He looked at Lily now, his voice steady. "I haven't spoken to them in 5 years, and I don't regret it, because love should always be bigger than hate." Lily's tears came freely then, quiet and heavy. "I'm so sorry, James." He reached across, gently brushing her hand with his fingertips. "You're not your father," he said, "and I'm not my parents. We choose who we become, and you chose to grow." Lily let out a shaky breath. "I still feel the guilt sometimes." James nodded. "I feel it too, but maybe the guilt is part of how we stay awake, how we make sure we never go back." They sat in silence for a long time, side by side. The fire popped softly, echoing in the stillness. Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. He didn't flinch. He let her rest there, the warmth of his presence grounding her. They weren't perfect. They were scarred, but they were choosing to be better, together. That night they cried, not out of shame, but out of release. Two people carrying heavy legacies, finally letting them go. And in those shared tears, something deeper bloomed. A bond forged not by shared backgrounds, but by shared choices. A quiet understanding that love is not about where you came from. It's about where you're willing to go. And they were both willing to go anywhere, as long as it meant healing. The wind howled through the pines as the snow-covered trees stood silent, like sentinels guarding the winter night. Lily and James had finished dinner late that evening, simple sandwiches and soup in his suite, followed by soft laughter, shared stories, and quiet looks that lasted too long to be accidental. "I need some air," Lily said, wrapping her scarf around her neck. "Want to walk with me?" James nodded. "Always." They left the warmth of the hotel and stepped into the snowy silence. The world was quiet, just the crunch of their boots and the soft rustling of wind across the trees. Aspen's frozen lake wasn't far from the hotel. A wide, silvery sheet of ice glittered beneath the moonlight. Trees circled the edge, their bare branches stretching like arms toward the stars. It was peaceful. Lily smiled, her cheeks rosy from the cold. "It's so still." James looked at her and replied, "Everything is, when I'm with you." She looked down, shy, but the truth of his words warmed her more than the coat ever could. They walked to the edge of the lake and stood there quietly, hand brushing hand, eyes on the stars. Then, a rustle, a sound too sharp, too out of place, a crunch that didn't come from their boots. Lily turned. A figure stepped out from the trees, hooded, face mostly hidden, breathing hard. Something glinted in his hand. "Wallets, phones, now," the stranger growled. Lily's breath caught. James instinctively stepped in front of her, arms spread protectively. "You don't want to do this," James said calmly. The man didn't listen. He lunged. A flash of silver, a streak of red, a shout. James winced, stumbling back, blood blooming on his sleeve. "James!" Lily screamed. She didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She moved, snatching a thick branch lying on the snowy ground. She swung with everything she had. The stick cracked against the attacker's shoulder. He cursed and staggered. James grabbed her wrist. "Run!" They took off toward the car parked nearby, breath ragged, snow kicking up around them. They reached it, slammed the doors shut, a cut, deep. "But I'm okay." Lily drove like her heart was on fire. She had never been so scared, not even the night she slept in his bed, not even when she told him about her past. This was different. This was the terrifying realization that she could lose him. The clinic was quiet when they arrived. The nurse moved fast. Bandages, sterilizers, stitches. Lily sat beside James, her hands red with his blood, refusing to leave his side. "You saved me," James whispered hoarsely as the nurse finished stitching him up. "You stepped in front of me," Lily said, eyes wet. "You got hurt because of me." "I'd do it again," he said softly, without a second thought. His voice trembled, not from pain, but from something deeper, something blooming between fear and love. "You saved me too," she whispered. He looked at her. "No," he said. "You saved me first. That night in the suite, when you didn't pretend, when you showed me what honesty looked like." She took his hand gently, and for a long moment, they just sat there, palms pressed together, two heartbeats in sync. Lily leaned forward, her forehead resting against his. The sterile smell of the clinic faded, the fear faded, and all that remained was love, raw, real, bleeding through every silence. Later that night back at the suite, James lay on the couch, arm bandaged, painkillers settling in. Lily brought him tea, her hands trembling just slightly. He took the cup, their fingers brushing again. "I was scared," she admitted. "So was I," he said. Not of the knife, but of losing you? Lily knelt beside him. You won't. His good hand cupped her cheek. I've built $1 billion empire, he whispered. But you are the first thing I've ever found that makes me feel truly rich. She let a single tear fall, then kissed his forehead, gentle and slow. And in that fragile moment, surrounded by soft lamplight and shadows on the wall, they knew. This wasn't just chemistry. This wasn't just a moment. It was love. Fierce, unlikely, real, and nothing, not even fear, not even blood, could take it away now. A month later, James left the hotel, but he didn't leave Lily. He bought her art supplies, helped her rent a small studio, and supported her dream without ever controlling her. Lily found peace in her painting. She painted their first meeting, a quiet bedroom, soft light, and a sleeping girl with a strong heart. A year later, they married. In a private cabin in the mountains, with snow falling gently outside, they said their vows. No press, no crowds. Just two people who learned that love, forgiveness, and second chances are stronger than fear or hate. Lesson: we are not where we come from. We are who we choose to be. Love can heal even the deepest wounds, and kindness is the language that changes hearts.